On this episode of The Geek State, the script of Colin Trevorrow's episode 9 has leaked, and we've got the details on how it ends.
Cartoon Network is releasing an old favorite, and Burt Ward is releasing too much information.
James and I look back at season 1 of the Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian. All that and more on this episode of The Geek State.
Hey, how long has it been since that thing moved? I don't know, like a minute or two, don't worry. It's been way longer than a minute. Oh my god. Shouldn't we check and see if it's still alive? You hit it pretty hard. You just want to see it. Well, we should check and see if it's hurt. The last thing that you want is to give Gideon a bag and have him open it up and find whatever is left. Okay, look, here you go. See? Take a peek. Everything's fine.
Stand by alert.
This is it!
This show is already out of its original packaging. This is The Geek State.
Welcome, everybody, to The Geek State, the podcast about all the cool stuff going on in the world of geek. I'm Chris, and joining me, as always, my buddy James. James, sir, how you doing tonight?
We're doing very great in the James household. Lots of fun and exciting things going on in North Texas. I know that people love it when we talk about weather. 81 degrees today, 50 degrees tomorrow.
Wow.
No big deal. Those are the highs. 30 degree swing in a day.
No kidding.
So that'll be real exciting. Excited about that. I can't imagine my sinuses will be affected at all.
None at all.
With allergies and things, I can't imagine that would have negatively impact me in the slightest. And I think it's a good thing we're recording this tonight and not tomorrow, because I might be a stopped up little boy.
And you might have to be taking care of those poor tortoises outside.
Well, Mr. Tortoise is inside. Mr. Tortoise is doing semi-hibernation. He doesn't actually hibernate. We keep him awake. It really throws off their cycle if you let them hibernate when they're domesticated. But we keep him inside. We have a room that's set up for him that stays a little warmer than the rest of the room. So he's very happy in there. Well, he's not very happy in there. He prefers to be outside, but he was able to go outside today. He was very happy about that. Well, you can just tell because you take him out of the bin and those legs just start going. And I don't know if you know this. I think the tortoise and the hare, I think the tortoise had the hare on speed because this thing it moves, you know. It's got legs. I
like picturing just this Dr. Dolittle scene with you and the tortoises. Because do you have more than one?
We have one tortoise, yeah, just the one tortoise. Much to my girlfriend's chagrin, she would love more, but we're not starting a tortoise breeding facility out of my household.
You just need one more.
Yeah, exactly. One thing about you mentioned Dr. Dolittle, saw one of the greatest headlines of all time being Dr. Dolittle should be sued for malpractice. Because apparently that movie is garbage. Well, it has dragons in it, Chris. It has dragons in it. What is going on?
I was about to say it probably jumped the shark, but it probably actually does jump a shark in this movie.
I'm sure. But it's so crazy because there's such a good voice cast on it. I mean, there's a lot of good voice actors in it. So
I think that's what you do when you try to save a movie like that.
Maybe.
You know, you're shooting all this live action stuff, knowing that you're gonna have a giraffe and a polar bear and stuff, and you're like, ooh, this is garbage. We need to bring in as many celebrities as we possibly can to salvage this.
I think Robert Downey Jr. just wanted to take a break and just do something easy.
You would think he'd want to do something less effect intensive. You know?
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know.
Maybe he likes it. Who knows?
Maybe he likes it. Well, the good thing about something like that is you just get to go to a sound studio every day. You don't have to travel. You know what I mean? There's not different locations. It's just a sound studio. You just go in, you do your craft, you go home. You don't have to wait. It's not a huge ensemble cast, so you don't have to wait for 40 people to get ready. You
don't have to wait for anybody.
I mean, that movie's. I think he might be the only human in that movie, right? I haven't seen very many others, so I'm sure there's others. But you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, but exactly.
There's nobody. It's very easy for him to just go in. He does his part and then gets out of there.
Right. That's perfect for him and not for American audiences. But
vote with your money.
Exactly. Speaking of the box office, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker just crossed that $1 billion mark. Yet some people like Scott Mendelson on Forbes will still say it's a failure, just because it did not as well as the other movies so far. But it did cross that barrier. $1 billion ain't nothing. You got 4 Star Wars films. that crossed that $1 billion mark with The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Rogue One, and now with The Rise of Skywalker, which equals to be about the amount of money Disney paid for Lucasfilm in the beginning, not to mention all the merchandising and stuff that they made off of this whole thing. Anyways, and then also of note, and I did not realize how popular this game was. I remember playing it for, a few months when it came out, but Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes also just crossed the $1 billion mark, and it's a, free to play type of game.
Well, free to play, pay to win.
Yeah,
that's how those things work. So I do remember downloading it, and I downloaded it a little later in the life cycle of it when like after Force Awakens came out, and you could buy Kylo Ren for $99. So rather than buying the packs to try and get him, it was $99 to get him. So they make good money doing that. There's a few people. That's a very top heavy ship that they have. If they lose one of their top people, they lose a lot of profit. So,
and you wonder why EA still has the franchise rights, the license for Star Wars.
Exactly. This game is a big part of that. But also, I'm an EA apologist. People gave Battlefront 2 a lot of crap. They literally just released an update for that game for free 2 years after it came out. The game is very good.
Constantly updating it.
And they have to start from scratch once they get that license. So you think games take 5 years to make. They got the license 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe. So, to expect them to have put out a bunch of great games all boom, 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 you'd be buying a bunch of shovelware titles that you wouldn't be happy with anyway. So
I'm Bombad Racing too. So
I love Super Bombad Racing, PlayStation 2, great game. Also, I believe available on your PS4. No, sorry, Racer X is available on PS4. Sorry. Yeah. Never mind. I take it back. I take it all back.
We're going to be talking a lot more Star Wars a little bit later on in the show with The Mandalorian. We're going to be talking about the first season with all the episodes and all the stuff. And then I got a little bit of extra Star Wars news, but we got some other stuff that is not Wars related coming up here in the news. So what if I told you that Colin Trevorrow, the guy that was going to direct the episode 9 film, the one that just came out, not quite the one that just came out, him and his screenwriting partner wrote a script for episode 9, submitted it to Disney, and not too long after, they parted ways over some creative differences. Now, something else that happened, a week after they submitted their script, Carrie Fisher passed away. And a lot of people have been wondering what this script was. What was this movie going to be? And how much of it was carried over into what became The Rise of Skywalker when J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio took over. Well, apparently, not much was at all carried over. There are some familiar themes that I think are just inevitable when you are making a movie that is building off of something else like The Last Jedi. But it was way different. And I, wasn't sure that this was worthy to bring up on the show until I started seeing a lot of different people who I trust start to vet and say, yes, what's being reported, what's being thrown out there is indeed legit. So this guy, James, it's a long YouTube video. And if you want to see it, you can seek it out. This guy named Robert Meyer Burnett. This guy's done a lot of Star Trek related, like documentaries and stuff. He did a film called Free Enterprise. He produced Agent Cody Banks. So, why question his credibility?
The Frankie Muniz classic. I don't know if you were kidding or not, but back up.
There was some sarcasm in there. But he went on his YouTube show called Robservations, and over 2 days, and each of these videos are like 2 hours long. He does stop to answer questions, but he also goes into detail and says lines from the movie and goes through it kind of point by point. And he said that this script was completed December 16th. And the title of this script, now, of course, this could be a title that was just temporary. A lot of people are jumping on this one and saying like, oh my God, it could have been called this. But we're not 100% sure. But the title on the script that was in his hands was called Star Wars Episode 9, Duel of the Fates, which part of me a little cringe, but also kind of like, it's kind of fitting because the beginning, with the Phantom Menace, with Duel of the Fates, and this is literally kind of what the whole point of this movie was going to be. Again, this guy went on for like 2 hours, and it's almost not fair as a fan to like look at this and go like, man, wouldn't that have been cool? Because you could probably read the script for the Phantom Menace, and if you could forget everything you saw with the Phantom Menace, you might be able to read it and go, wow, this is going to be so great. And then you see it and you're like, okay, that was good. Like, I really love the Phantom Menace. But you can read something and then the actual execution of it can be a little, not quite there.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Too many Misa-Bisas,
Right. You throw one or two in there, that's fine. But you make a a fart joke, you've crossed the line.
Yes.
I would really love to read the Phantom Menace, like actual, like not something that was like edited to be published, but like a shooting script, like a straight off, like just a binder of the thing, and just to see how that was described, in the EOP farts and Jar Jar's like, ooh, P-Usa. But okay, so back to Star Wars Episode 9, Duel of the Fates. Got a couple of plot points that I want to throw out to you, James, because I'm not sure if you've had time to research this or read any of this, and for everybody else at home or in the car or wherever you are. But I actually he did read the entire crawl on this YouTube video. So I'm going to read this for you. The iron grip of the First Order has spread to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Oh, I should read this like Tom Kane. Do you know who that's the guy that does the Clone Wars?
Oh, there
intros.
You go. Okay.
I'm going to try my best. Okay. So people out there, I'm going to take a drink really quick just to kind of, wet the palate.
This could go horribly wrong, just for the record.
This could go really wrong, or it could go really great. The iron grip of the First Order has spread the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Only a few scattered planets remain unoccupied. Traitorous acts are punishable by death, determined to suffocate the growing unrest. Supreme Leader Kylo Ren has silenced all communication between neighboring systems. Led by General Leia Organa, the Resistance has planned a secret mission to prevent their annihilation and forge a new path to freedom.
That's pretty good.
It's not too bad. Not bad. If it wasn't for the cedar allergies, I would have nailed it.
I would say it wasn't his voice, but it was his delivery. You nailed the delivery. But obviously you don't have the same voice as him, so that would be tough.
I don't.
Yeah.
No, and if I had the same voice as him, I wouldn't be doing a podcast.
That's right. You would be doing what he's doing.
I'd be making the big Charmin money, they're making all the commercials and stuff.
Yeah.
Or narrating the Oscars, which he tends to do sometimes. So this movie starts off on a very he described it as like a man on a mission. So like jump right into the action, a little bit like what we saw, but different. So we open on the Kuat shipyards, which if you're, a fan of Star Wars and like read, the EU and comics and stuff like that, that's where like the Imperial Star Destroyers and TIE fighters and, and that kind of stuff. And now I could be wrong about the TIE fighters, but definitely the Star Destroyers come from the Kuat shipyards. And so we're on this mission with Rose and BB-8 and some of the other droids. And there's some other heroes that we just don't see yet. And apparently they're trying to sabotage these Star Destroyers that are being built for the First Order. And the heroes make it back to their ship. They try to blow it up. It doesn't work. They cut to the First Order. General Hux and his group are kind of like, Mwahaha, like we knew this. They were planning this all along, after them, basically. So we have this, mission that's gone wrong. We later, another thing that's interesting is, we do go to Mustafar in the, Trevorrow movie. And this one takes it a lot further. Kylo Ren has basically, he's spending a lot of time, on Mustafar in Vader's castle. And the entire time he's there researching and trying to find a source of power, he's being haunted consistently by Luke Skywalker's Force Ghost. And the whole time, just basically like just pestering him and trying to, get under his skin, to turn him back. They do come across a holocron, that has a message from Emperor Palpatine. So Palpatine is in the script. He's just he's not back alive. He's being seen through a hologram. It's a hologram that was intended for Darth Vader. The holocron at some point determines that the person watching isn't Darth Vader and has kind of like a defense system and shoots lightning at Kylo Ren, and it kind of scars him for the rest of the picture. There's a lot of back and forth stuff. Kylo Ren and Rey end up on Mortis. And this is one of those things that I flagged like, okay, don't believe this. Like, I cannot believe that they would have written the Mortis stuff into a live action Star Wars movie. But this could also have been one of the things that was creative differences between.
For the uninitiated, what is Mortis?
Okay, great. Yeah, sorry. There's people out there that aren't.
This is, out there. For the
again, that's kind of right. Like why this wouldn't have made the thing. So in the Clone Wars, and I highly recommend if you have Disney Plus, go check out. There's a 3-episode arc, which is referred to as the Mortis trilogy. And what happens in the Mortis trilogy, in a nutshell, is Ahsoka, Anakin, and Obi-Wan are on a mission. But all of a sudden, they're being pulled into this monolith, and it's like a big, like a pyramid, like a double-sided pyramid, basically. And they get sucked in. And inside this pyramid, in this little world, which is called Mortis, lives a person called the Father, and then the Father has a son and a daughter. The Father is basically the keeper of the balance between, making sure that the son doesn't harm the daughter and the daughter doesn't, do anything to harm the son. Mm-hmm. The son is the dark side. The daughter is the light side. There's a bunch of stuff that happens. Anakin is tempted. Anakin is even shown his future. And given basically, he's asked by the Father to, hey, I can't live here forever and keep the balance. You need to stay here and do that. And Anakin rejects it. Also in this episode, Ahsoka dies. And like for real, like dies and is resurrected by Anakin Skywalker by transferring the life force from the daughter into Ahsoka. So people acting like the life force transfer in The Rise of Skywalker was brand new. It's been there from a long time ago, whenever the Mortis trilogy happened in the early 2000s, in the early, it was probably like 2010, 2011.
And Palpatine
so anyways,
said you could create life with the Force. So
yeah. And there's,
I guess that was after then, but never mind.
That's true. So Mortis
takes place after.
Mortis plays this really big role in like understanding a little bit about what George Lucas thinks about the Force. And, at the end of it, you're kind of left with, did that really happen? Is this just some sort of group hallucination? Right. It kind of a lot of unanswered questions, but I think that Star Wars does that best. One of the things that stood out to me that I was like, God, okay, that would have been kind of cool. Apparently the final battle would have been on Coruscant, and it would have shown what Coruscant is now like now that the First Order has kind of taken over the galaxy. And we would have had a battle on the lower levels in the sky, in the air, all meanwhile Rey and Kylo are battling it out on Mortis. And it at some points revealed that Kylo Ren killed Rey's parents at the behest of Snoke. And then towards the end, Luke, Obi-Wan, and Yoda appear as Force ghosts trying to save Ben, but are ultimately unsuccessful, and Ben is, in the words in the script, extinguished. I know. It's like a really interesting thing. Like if we had a whole episode, but it's better when you listen to the guy who's actually read the script. The guy's name is Robert Meyer Burnett, and if you want to see it, you can check out Robservations, and it's over on YouTube. What do you think? Like, ultimately, I know we will never get this movie.
And we're only getting snippets of what it is. And like you said, you could read something and it sounds great, but then they execute it and it's bad, or vice versa. More over so on the Reddit. One, but
if you are interested in just reading the bullet points, over on the Reddit Star Wars leaks, somebody kind of typed out all the bullets. Oh. So if you want to just kind of skim the summary, you can also go and do that.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting. I think. I do think that there were missed opportunities in the new trilogy. I think visiting Coruscant would have been awesome. That is something that we only got to see in the prequels, and then a little bit, I think, in Clone Wars, you see a little bit of Coruscant as well. But
Return of Jedi has a little scene as well at the end.
Oh yeah, that's true. When
added,
special edition. But yeah, I just think that that is something that I want to revisit, but I don't think we're not going to be there for too long. I'm sure that there will be some sort of show that happens there. Hopefully that takes kind of the idea of that underbelly show that they were trying to do for a while, the Star Wars Underground or whatever it was called.
Maybe we'll get that with season 2 of The Mandalorian.
Maybe we will get that with season 2 of The Mandalorian, but we will talk about that later, Chris. This is
we
not
will.
Mandalorian section.
It's not. It's the news.
Yeah, I know. And what we're going to talk about next, we get on Duel of the Fates. I like the name. Duel of the Fates. Starts with Duel of the Fates, ends with Duel of the Fates. I like it.
Full circle.
Anywho, Cartoon Network has recently posted the first episodes of Thundercats Roar online, or Thundercats Roar, and then they posted it online, obviously. I read that funny. Announced in 2018, Thundercats Roar is a new take on the tale of Super Space Cats from Warner Brothers. Set initially to air last year on Cartoon Network, Thundercats Roar is currently available for preview on the Cartoon Network app. The preview, which includes first full 2 episodes, which is essentially they tie together to make the premiere, is viewable for free for anyone who wants to go watch them online.
I could only make it through like the first episode. And I was like, okay.
I've heard show is terrible. Just from very few, and that is just through headline reading. I've not read anything.
You know, and as a child of the 80s who doesn't remember much of the 80s beyond G.I. Joe and Transformers cartoons, I was aware of Thundercats, but was not into it. I knew, Snarf, and the toys and all that stuff. I have a fond memory of just seeing it at Toys R Us. And I know a lot of hardcore fans are kind of like, whoa, this is terrible. But I think for a younger audience, it feels, I think Teen Titans Go is sort of kind of the feel, but also like Adventure Time or something in the weird kind of the animation style. And it's kind of, it's over the top silly. And I would say like it held me for the first episode. I just was like, I'm not terribly interested in watching this anymore.
I think, and I've said this before on the show, is when adults go back and visit things of their childhood that are being remade, you have to remember you're watching a cartoon. It ain't made for you. It's not being remade for you. Yeah, it's being remade to capture that audience now, not to capture you now. So
good point.
If they get you, that's good. But it's just not made for you. It's made to entertain another generation of Thundercats fans, and maybe you'll watch it with your kids, type thing.
Maybe. I just look at it and go, how can they make toys out of this? Like the character designs are just so weird, but that's not what they do anymore. They don't make these cartoons to sell toys.
No, they got to sell an app.
Yeah.
That's what
apparently
needs to happen.
It's $1 billion industry. We're in the wrong thing. We should be. Where's the podcast simulator app? Where you have to like build your studio and build an audience, and
I'm like 99.9% sure that exists.
I'm don't sure doubt it. Somewhere at least on Android. Exactly. I can see that for sure. Shots fired.
Weird flex, bro.
I know. Speaking of weird flex, Burt Ward. That's a good segue. Burt Ward, Robin from the 1960s Batman show, which I'm a huge fan of. I watch that every day after school. He claimed. Well, let me just back this up before we get to it. So recently, Burt just got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So have fun with that $10,000 a year you have to spend on the upkeep of that star. But during the ceremonies, he revealed some information to Page 6, which is wildly bizarre to be talking about on a day that you're getting your Hollywood Walk of Fame star. So basically, he told Page 6, and this is his quote, "They thought Robin had a very large bulge for television." This is ABC telling him this. Apparently, the Catholic League of Decency complained, and apparently ABC was so concerned about the enormity of the problem that the company took matters into its own hands. According to Ward, he was then put on a medicine prescribed by the studio doctor that would, in his words, shrink me up. He then later goes on to say that he took them for 3 days. James, he took it for 3 days. He wanted to be a Hollywood star so bad that for 3 days he took junk shrinking medication. Like,
yes, it's dedication.
I know.
It also could be a completely fabricated story, but
I mean, what? Okay, first of all, like what medication? I mean, I can imagine maybe there's some sort of hormone type replacement.
Maybe, but would it work in 3 days?
No, of course not. Yeah. I mean, he said he gave it up. He gave it up because he was.
Yeah, I see it now. But
yeah, he decided that, he wanted to maybe have kids one day. He was only like 20 years old when he started.
Was it like chemical castration pills of some sort? Like, I just don't understand.
That's the only thing I can think of.
What's going on. Anyways,
this is like it's a old man flex, just saying like, yeah, it was too big. Yeah, it's really Robin
for these tights.
These tights. They couldn't give me pants. Robin doesn't wear pants. He wears the tiny underwears.
Anyhow.
He said he was like, I used to use my cape. I just covered it up with my cape. I'm like, okay. I'm not going to go into the amount of shaming that he goes into Adam West, which, how dare you, sir, say bad things about Adam West. But he also makes some implications about Adam West not having the same problem as he did.
Wow. Heavy shade.
Yeah, no kidding. So Burt Ward, enjoy your 15 minutes of the spotlight and that $10,000 a year you have to pay to the Hollywood Walk of Fame for its upkeep.
Take out the officials counting.
This is a feature presentation.
And now, on with the show.
So a couple years ago, James, we were told that Star Wars was getting its first live action TV show. Now, that's something that we were told a long time ago by George Lucas himself. And 50 scripts, of course, were written and put away in the vault, never to be seen again, unless, of course, they use some of those ideas for the upcoming second season, which I highly doubt. But we did a episode when the first episode aired. So we talked about the pilot episode, kind of broke it down, gave some thoughts. And now that we have seen the completion of the first season of The Mandalorian, we've given people plenty of time to make sure that they watched it. But just as a fair warning, we'll dive into some spoiler stuff, but you've had enough time to watch 8 episodes of television, especially when some episodes are like 31 to 35 minutes long in length. So before we get started, James, just overall, so we're talking like the full season. What is your kind of like overall thought of this first season of The Mandalorian?
I thought it was great. I thought that I enjoyed all the places that it took us. It took you to multiple venues. It revisited some from that it took you to and then brought you back that had changed. I thought that was cool. The way that it was able to do that in 8 short episodes. I felt like there was a couple filler episodes. Kind of filler plots, but you kind of have to do that when you're doing a TV show. I liked that it was on a weekly release schedule. I think that
I was going to ask.
I think that about like enhanced it. It made it must see TV more than I should probably watch that. Whereas sure. if it's coming out every week on Friday, you go, I need to watch the new episode of Mandalorian. But if it's just there, it's like, oh no, there's 8 of these. I have to watch them eventually, the kind of thing, which I don't know that you would have the same problem. I think you would probably binge them all. And I probably would too, if we're being honest, but I find myself when everything's available at once, not finishing.
Well, you can, and you're just like, well, it's here. There's no rush. Yep. Everybody's watching on their own pace. Yep. But that was an interesting move by Disney to kind of buck the system that everybody else does of dropping an entire season of a show all at once. This kind of created a little bit of like a frenzy for some people because the show would, appear on the Disney Plus streaming service at, 3:00 in the morning, our time. And, you're kind of in a rush to try to see the show before you can get back on social media because nobody respected any kind of spoiler policy during this time. Especially considering the United Kingdom doesn't even have Disney Plus yet.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
That's happening, I think, in the next month or two. So they don't even have legal access to even watch The Mandalorian. And so they're, the big stuff is already well spoiled unless you've lived under a rock, that you don't know about the child and you don't know about, kind of what happens. And
one thing I did want to kind of say before we moved off the weekly schedule is I did see a lot of people saying, oh, well, Netflix does it and they're the biggest guy in town. So why don't obviously it works for them. Why would, why is Disney not following same suit? And I think the reason is because Netflix has a ton of data and Netflix was also the first. They were the first thing that most people subscribe to watch TV through the internet. Right. Yeah. So that is a That is a cost that those people have associated with their lives for upwards of 10 years now, almost 10 years. It's been available.
Yeah.
Right. Or more than 10 years.
Definitely here.
More than 10 years. So that's just sunk costs. Now you're introducing a new streaming service, and I think if you were to do the month free with the new streaming service, people would watch it and get rid of it. Whereas Netflix is already established as part of your budget. It's there. It's not going away. Like, they know that they can drop everything at once and you won't unsubscribe. But with this Disney Plus, I think that if they didn't get you for the first charge, where your credit card actually gets charged and you didn't notice it, then you're not going to cancel it. Yeah, and I'm sure people did cancel it, but I think that the attachment rate, people still are subscribed now that probably wouldn't be if they released it all at once.
That's essentially what happened with me and CBS All Access with Star Trek Discovery. That when that first season came on, it was released weekly,
right?
And I stayed subscribed, and I'm still subscribed, and it's been like a year since new Star Trek has come out, but they've been taking my $5 a month.
But now Picard.
Yeah, I know, and now I got Picard, so I can't cancel now.
Exactly, it's too late to cancel.
7 of 9's back. Yeah. I gotta be honest. For whatever reason, and when I was watching that first Picard trailer, this is so not Star Wars, but watching that first Picard trailer, I was like, this is fine, whatever. And then they showed 7 of 9, and I was like, okay, like this is a different show than what I was expecting. I was like, okay, this is taking a turn. This is pretty cool.
I have no idea what 7 of 9 is. 7.
Oh man, from Star Trek Voyager, she's like half Borg, basically.
Oh, that's basically.
Yeah, 7 of 9. Basically, because she's Borg, so she has like a number. Basically, it was like, we've done a few seasons of Star Trek Voyager. We need something to spice up the show in the later seasons. Let's bring in this, blonde lady, and that's. But she's, but in a fleshed out, really good character. I mean, I'm not throwing shade at 7 of 9. I was like, I kind of dig that character.
Gotcha.
Back to Star Wars. Yeah. Back to Mandalorian. I did like the weekly thing, and I think it would not have become as big of a deal if they had dropped everything at once. It would have made a splash, and then like a week or two later, it would have gone away. But what happened with the release schedule, and then of course the popularity of the child, aka Baby Yoda, we got like, it was a weekly meme drop. Like every week we got, the child sipping soup, and then the internet was just that for a week,
right,
which was absolutely insane. I had a friend over the weekend mention something about, like, man, I read this article about like, how much money Disney lost by not having, Baby Yoda merchandise, out for the Christmas season. And I think, that was one of the smartest moves that Jon Favreau and that team decided, was to not allow merchandise to be made of the child because of what would have happened if that information had leaked.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was,
because imagine, James, like you're on social media, or a friend says, "Oh, that Mandalorian show that we're all looking forward to because it's about this really cool badass bounty hunter guy." Yeah, apparently it's just about a show about a guy watching a Baby Yoda.
I mean,
because wouldn't that have changed?
I'd still watch it, but yeah, I hear you. I hear what you're saying, and no, I agree with you that it was a great.
And we're different fans than, yeah, but like
it literally caught everybody off guard. Nobody would have ever guessed that this show was going to involve a Baby Yoda.
No, not at all.
So,
I wanted to talk about a couple characters that kind of came and left, and it's a little bit of a tribute to the amount of time given to some of these characters to build them up. There were some episodes where I was kind of like, well, that's kind of a throwaway thing, like when with IG-11 in the pilot episode, we were both like, that can't be it, right? Like he's got to come back, but it did definitely seem like he was dead. And then for him to be able to come back in the role that he had, to, essentially save the day and be a hero, was a really interesting character arc for a freaking robot.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I liked Takata, whatever. I liked him, Taika, as the voice. Question, though, has he now ingrained himself as the voice of all IG robots from now on?
Oh, good question.
Because I would assume they would have this. Well, I guess my Alexa has 2 voices. So sorry, my Amazon device that you can activate by saying its name.
Yeah.
I mean, it has 2 voices, so I guess they could easily do that with droids too. So that was a dumb thing to say. But I'm gonna retract what I said.
It's not really, because R2 units have very similar sounding beeps and boops and all that. I'm sure for R2D2 they've got like a specific library of beeps and boops that are like, only R2 can do it like this. Everybody else can use this library of common droid sounds, but
they could
only R2.
You could copyright it.
Oh, well, yeah.
You could space copyright it.
I was going to say, in-universe copywriting, is that is that a real deal? Is that something that's like monitored by the Trade Federation?
I was about to say it was all run by the Empire. So you could copy it under the stamp under the seal of the Empire. Oh. Yeah. I mean, they had to have a copyright department, right?
I'm sure there'd be all kinds of IP.
Otherwise people would be stealing moisture farm designs.
I mean, the whole plot of the first movie is a trade boycott.
That's true.
It's that wild to think about. We also lost Queel, which immediately was a fan favorite. Nick Nolte's character, the Ugnaught. Mm-hmm. It's just such an interesting thing to tell a story about a guy who's essentially, was a slave to the Empire, who worked his way out of slavery, and then gives everything, including his life, to help the Mandalorian at the end and protect the child as best as he could. That Blurg just couldn't quite ride faster than Jason Sudeikis's
land speeder
speeder bike.
Bike, yeah.
So that was a sad thing, but I think really important for the Mandalorian to have something like that happen. I think had nobody passed away in such a way, IG-11 was still kind of sad, but it's still at the same time, it's a droid. And for Queel to be someone who has shown compassion and to be kind, and to have helped the Mandalorian as much as he did, to see him basically die in the service of the Mandalorian, really, I feel like raised the stakes, especially for those last couple episodes, because we don't know. These are all brand new characters. And, I assumed that we wouldn't kill the Mandalorian, but at the end of episode 8, am I totally off base in even contemplating that the possibility that the Mandalorian could die, the guy, Din Djarin, whose name we got revealed in episode 8.
Yeah.
I thought, crossed my mind that Din Djarin would die, but the Mandalorian armor would get passed on.
I mean, I think that the idea of him dying, crossing your head is completely normal. It was, in fact, I think it was set up that way to invoke that feeling. But if you gave it a grain of thought, then you're an idiot. There's just no way they would not do that.
Well, I'm an idiot.
I mean, I just don't. I mean, they didn't set up anyone to be a successor to the armor. Like, it's like it would.
Well, he said they have a moment where both Cara Dune and the Mandalorian Din Djarin say it's the Mandalorian is not a race, it's a creed.
No, I understand that. But who's wearing?
I didn't ponder on it too much because it had happened so fast, James. That that thought just left my mind.
I'm just saying, they already established the fact that Yoda, the child can heal. I mean, no, it wasn't going to happen.
But the child was passed out from having to put out that fire.
Oh, was he tired?
He was a little tired.
Oh no, the most powerful being in the galaxy was tired.
He needed to take a nap.
Okay.
Oh, so precious.
Yeah,
I mean, a bullet for him.
No, I don't think that would have happened. I think that would have been the worst decision ever. I think people would have been very upset.
I agree. I don't disagree with you. I just, after Queel's death, it made me question what they could do. Could Cara Dune die? Even though we've spent some time with her and we have this, she's got a Black Series action figure. At this point, because we don't know where her character ends up, anybody is fair game.
Right.
And I think that was important for Queel to die, even though it was super sad. Do you have a favorite moment or a favorite episode from this season?
My favorite moment would definitely be the ending of episode 7. When they're doing the transaction with the child and I forget the Warzog's character, and all of a sudden out of nowhere the Death Troopers show up and just light the place up. I thought that was awesome.
That was cool.
Yeah,
that whole ending sequence is probably up there with the end of episode with chapter 3, which is the Sin, when he's about to leave Navarro and he's like, nope, I got to go back and save the child. And he goes back through and tracks him down. And then he's in that situation where there's literally no way out. But then all of a sudden the Mandalorian covert shows up and just like lights up all the bounty hunters and the heavy infantry. I think his name is Paz Vizsla. And he's got that big gun and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is so cool, because I never thought I would see something like this in live action. When, if I could talk to like 10-year-old me, watching, Return of the Jedi and just thinking like, Boba Fett's the coolest looking dude ever. And I want his action figures and I've got all this, all this merchandise and stuff, wondering, who are these other people? And then watching the Clone Wars with all the Mandalorian stuff. I have far too many Mandalorians from the Clone Wars. I army build that one with the Death Watch. I think those are two of my favorite moments. Do you have an episode besides a moment, just like one episode that you feel like just was like the best of the work?
Yeah, not really. To be honest, if probably episode 3 if I had to pick one. But I don't really have a favorite or like a one that just really hit it out of the park. I do have a least favorite, but we can get to that in a minute.
Sure. I think what's interesting is both episodes that you're pointing out is episode 3 and episode 7, and they share a common denominator, and that's that they both were directed by Deborah Chow.
Well,
and she's
mark me up as a Deborah Chow friend.
She is directing all of the episodes of the upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Oh, then I look forward to that.
Yeah, I know. It's like, hey, not
that I wasn't before, but
sure, exactly. I mean, it's like, she directed them and she didn't write them. Those are mostly all Jon Favreau. But there's a little common denominator. And I agree. To me, those are two of my absolute favorite moments, except I do have a really soft spot for the second episode, The Child. And that's the one where we've got the Jawas and the Mudhorn and all of that stuff. And the revolution, the discovery that the child has Force abilities.
Right.
Like that's a standout moment for myself.
Did he even know? Like, he didn't even know what that meant, though.
No, yeah, I don't.
Because it wasn't until much later. It wasn't until he met back up with what's his name? Quill. Until he met back up with Quill, where Quill kind of was like, that's called the Force kind of thing.
Yeah, I've heard of the Jedi.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of this kind of thing. It's weird to be in a world, like we think that the Jedi in the Force are so commonplace. But I mean, George Lucas over and over again, and then, carried over here with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, are kind of like, not everybody knows all this stuff. The galaxy is really big, even though everybody seems to be all related. But it's a really big galaxy, and not everybody knows who the Jedi are. They may have saw Jedi as just like, a peacekeeper, warrior thing that betrayed the Empire. They just kind of believe what they're being told. It's essentially the equivalent. It could be the equivalent of like cave paintings. Yeah. In our world, like, cave paintings are like, or imagine like etchings into a pyramid. Say the police don't exist in the world except for in New York City. And if you've never been to New York City, you probably never encountered like a police officer. Right. And you're just like, I've heard of them. I've seen them in the stories, but I've never actually ever seen it. I don't know anything about it. And that's kind of the world that we're living in here. We're in a post-Empire, heavily propagandaed era of time where, for the most part, the Empire controlled everything. Yeah. So if the Empire didn't tell you, you didn't know about it. Right. Yeah. It's very, very succinct
statement, Chris. I agree.
So you hinted. What are your? Do you have a least favorite moment or a least favorite episode?
I have both a least favorite moment and a least favorite episode. All right. One of my least favorite moments is the way that the series wrapped up, or not the series, the season wrapped up. I think it's misleading people. We can get to that in a bit too. The other piece that I didn't like is the very end of episode 3 when the Mandalorian got a Rocketeer salute from another Mandalorian. Hated that part. Thought it was awful. Yeah. And then least favorite episode would be, I don't know exactly what number it was. I think it was 4 or 5 on the forest planet. I enjoyed the episode itself. Chapter 4. I enjoyed the episode itself as an episode, but to me it felt like an episode of the Clone Wars where it was like, here's these people in need. Let's help them. End of episode. It felt like filler to me.
So I agree with you on that. And what struck me as weird is Dave Filoni put together a few episodes of the Clone Wars of essentially the same story. Where it's a kind of a Seven Samurai retelling, essentially. Right. You got to train up the villagers in order to fight the bad guys, which is fine.
But it's hard,
yeah, it's hard to tell that story, right? It's hard to tell that story in like 30 minutes. Even Clone Wars strung it out over a couple of episodes, because it was hard to believe, like, in a montage that Cara and the Mandalorian trained up this entire village to fight back against the Klatooinians or whatever those guys are that species is. And I just felt it was a little rushed. Overall, though, I liked it. It just was, it felt too fast. And I was also like, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But
yeah, to me, all it established is the fact that they couldn't hide the kid. Like they knew,
right?
And that happened in the first 5 minutes and the last 30 seconds of them saying, "Oh, we need to go here because it's so remote," and then the last 30 seconds when the sniper tries to kill the kid.
Yeah.
So,
you mentioned the ending and misleading. So let's talk about the way the season ends.
Well, I just don't know. You can go first on this one.
No, I was just going to say, what was your because it's got some oh my god moments at the end. Yeah. But I'm curious because you said it misleads fans, and I'm curious to see what that thought is.
Well, I think everyone just is under this. So I don't get what the next steps are going to be, except trying to find this thing's home. So I guess that's what's going to happen. But I feel like people were like, oh, this Baby Yoda, the child is going to become a Mandalorian. And it's like, well, no, he's 50 and he's still a baby. Mandalorian is supposed to be, I assume, like in his 30s, maybe. Looks damn near 50.
I think he's in his 40s
when he takes that helmet off. But
I think based on the flashback, knowing that he's around
that's
8 or 9 or 10 during the Clone Wars.
Clone Wars, yep.
I think they clocked him at around 40 something.
That makes sense. But he ain't going to be around to train this kid when he's older. So I think I feel like that misled people into this idea that this. I don't know what they're going to do with this baby. It's going to be a baby, and they could do this show for 50 more years, and it's still a fucking baby.
Isn't that the raddest part about it, though? They're going to make so much money on merchandise with this Baby Yoda, and the second they throw some Mandalorian armor on it, it's going to stay.
Yeah, but what is the character development of a baby for 50 years?
I know it's a really good point, and the problem that I can't imagine being Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni trying to break out stories, knowing now the popularity of it, and what if they've already shot the 4th episode where they find this baby's home world where there's 4 other of Yoda's species living there, and he's like, all right, this is yours. Have fun. Right. Bye-bye.
And that's completely unfulfilling. Exactly. I feel like they've really dug themselves into a corner here of what to do.
Well, if anybody can dig themselves out, I think Dave's got a good handle on all of that. But also I agree with you because it's well, what do you do? It's just, it is the further adventures of the Mandalorian and the child. And apparently it has a name, that they're probably kicking themselves now that they didn't reveal it during the first season because, every piece of merchandise can't legally, Disney won't let them call it Baby Yoda. But if you go to if you go to like GameStop or Walmart, you can't search for the child. You have to search. You can type like Funko Baby Yoda, and then the child pop, will show up in your.
Isn't the Funko of Yoda just a Funko of Baby Yoda? Are we? Who are we kidding?
It's different.
Does it have less wrinkle?
It's like used Facetune a little bit. It's like it's a smooth, little guy.
Baby Yoda looks like a Funko of Yoda.
It does. It really does. And I'm looking at one like right now. I'm just like, I could just wrap some like a towel around it, and boom, Baby Yoda.
Don't worry, when it comes out, I'm sure you'll be able to look at the real deal.
Yeah, I'll have it. I'll have it.
Oh, I know.
I'll be at Build-A-Bear. They just announced Build-A-Bear is going to have a Baby Yoda.
Did you see their stock went up because of that? Like, how weird.
It's insane. This whole thing is crazy. I watched The Mandalorian a second time over the Christmas break with a couple, basically, with family, and two of the little girls. Did I share this already?
You did not.
I don't think I did not share this.
No.
So there's three of them, and two are, like one's like 12 and one's 10, and they're watching it for the first time, and they're just like, oh my God, Baby Yoda's so cute. It's so cute. It's so cute. And the 6-year-old is like, I'm cute and I'm a baby. I'm cute, right? I'm cute. And I was like so annoyed by it. I was like, you're 6.
You're not a baby.
I was like, he's 50.
Yeah, well, exactly. He's 50. So
if she had been smarter, she would have chimed back with, well, he's 50.
A girl can dream,
I know. He's got to be cute as Baby Yoda. Super looking forward to season 2, though. And even though we don't really know what it's going to be like, we do know when it's going to air roughly. It's going to be back on Disney Plus fall of 2020. It's been shooting for the last couple of months. Jon Favreau, I'm not sure if you saw this, but he posted a maquette, which is a small model of a very buff Gamorrean guard, shirtless, in the post, basically in his announcement post that the second season was coming fall of 2020. So gotta wait, but don't know what that's all about.
And because we didn't talk about it, Darksaber.
Oh my gosh, the Darksaber. Yes. Oh my God. Clone Wars is coming back in February. We don't know the exact date. We think it's February 17th, but they took down that video.
If you haven't, Chris, who is we?
I forgot.
You and all the people. I'm just kidding.
All of us here at the Geek State, right?
That's right.
That was a really cool, interesting callback to the Clone Wars and Rebels, which bummed me out that he had the Darksaber, because I was holding out hope for Bo-Katan to be a part of this show, because she's the last one that had the possession of the Darksaber. But
is there, there's only one?
Correct. Yeah. So it was created by.
If I would have known that, it would have made it way more impressive.
Yeah, so the Darksaber was created by I think the first and only Mandalorian that was inducted into the Jedi Order. And after his death, the Darksaber was kept in the Jedi Temple, and the Mandalorians went and stole it, basically, and it became kind of a symbol of power on Mandalore. And whoever basically wielded the Darksaber was, in power at the time. And so that's why it was symbolic that Bo-Katan ended up with it to help unite all of the clans together and in the face of the Empire. But then, of course, the Purge happens, which we don't know anything about. And now Moff Gideon has possession of the Darksaber, which kind of throws into question, like, what happened in that, in that purge. He mentions in this episode that he about the siege of Mandalore. So it makes me think he was there, which we know the siege of Mandalore will be at the end of the Clone Wars season 7 when it comes out next month, even though it's weekly release. So it'll be 12 weeks from now when we get to actually see that. But I'm kind of curious now, like, did they work in Din Djarin as a young child, because he references that he knows who Din is because of his time spent during the siege of Mandalore. So it's like, what? Maybe there's more to be learned about the titular character coming soon on the Clone Wars.
Let's look around the region and take our pick of the week.
Shut up and take my money.
All right, it's the end of another episode, but before we leave, we've got to do our pick of the week because it's our stamp of approval on something cool out in the world. And I don't know, James, why don't you go first?
I will go first, Chris. I appreciate the honor. My pick of the week is going to be something that is released on Nintendo Switch, and it didn't get recently released, but I've recently been playing it. And that would be the Final Fantasy 7 and 8. And I believe 9 falls into this category too, but I'm not positive, so you might want to do a little research on that one. But definitely Final Fantasy 7 and 8. The re-releases on the Nintendo Switch. I've been playing them and really enjoying them. The thing that I love about these games is it has a lot of enhancements to them to make them more palatable in the modern day. The key of which being a ×3 speed up. So you can just click a stick in and everything's multiplied by 3 as far as your time moving. So running across the map, and you can click both sticks in and it turns off random encounters. So if you just want to go from one place to the next without running into 1,000 enemies, you can do that. Just a lot of little quality of life improvements that I've really enjoyed and has made the games more enjoyable to me. I'm currently playing through episode 7, Final Fantasy 7 right now, in getting ready for the actual Final Fantasy 7 remake that's coming out. That just got delayed actually to April, but it will be coming out in early April. Very excited about that, even though I think it's going to be a giant disappointment. What about you, Chris?
What about me? Well, my official pick of the week is something different, but I do want to just mention that I've been spending a lot of time playing Super Mario Odyssey. I got it for Christmas. Santa brought it. And I hadn't played it, and it is really fun. I didn't think I was going to be very, very much into that style of Mario games. I traditionally like the side scroller type Mario stuff. Cause I really I wasn't a big fan of Mario 64, and I didn't play Galaxy and all that. But Super Mario Odyssey is scratching an itch, and it's really fun. I'm enjoying a lot of that game. And, I have played more. This is sad. I have played more Super Mario Odyssey than I have of Jedi Fallen Order. But it's because the Switch is just so easy. I can take it anywhere. I can play that game in bed. Not that I'm going to take my PS Vita, which is sitting. I'm not going to remote play on that. But anyways, my pick of the week is a weird pick of the week because it's not really something that's super awesome, but it was an interesting thing to watch. And I had some appreciation for it kind of now. Disney Plus, of course, has all kinds of old stuff on there, and something that I remember really vaguely watching when I was younger, and I can't pinpoint when I saw this. But shortly after Star Wars came out, a lot of studios went out there and made a space movie. And one of those space movies Disney made was The Black Hole. And good grief, this movie is weird. I'm not even gonna explain the plot. Basically, there's a black hole and a ship and some robots and, this big giant red robot and some floaty robots. And then at the end, hell, I don't understand what happens at the end, to be honest. It kind of just ends. It's weird. And, but there are some really remarkable visual effect shots for the time. It's kind of this movie is essentially the last big science fiction movie from the studio era, where the visual effects were being created by the old Hollywood studio system. And it kind of has this interesting thing to it. It's not very long. It's only about an hour and a half. So it's something that you can easily just put on and watch. And then if you lose interest, just let it play in the background, because the score is amazing. The music of this thing is really standout. So that's The Black Hole on Disney Plus. And I'm really excited to talk about what's coming up next week on the podcast. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and we're finally doing it. James, I think you need to batten down the hatches, raise Periscope, even though it didn't have a Periscope, because we're going beneath the surface with Sequest DSV. We're specifically watching episode 1 and 2 of it. They aired together as a movie. We're watching Sequest season 2, the first episode. If you have the DVDs, it's episode 1 and 2. I think they have it broken up. So if you can acquire it, great. I'm going to find a way to maybe share it with people. If you're interested in seeing it, also get a hold of me on Twitter or Facebook, or Instagram. And, I will let you in maybe on my Plex server or something like that. But we're going to be watching Sequest. It's one of my all-time favorite shows of all time where like, had I known that the world of streaming and TV shows on DVD were going to exist, I probably would not have gotten in so many fights with my family to make sure that we were home in time to watch it and or to record it onto a VHS tape. So anyways, super excited to do Sequest. I'm so it's weird, James.
I'm so excited. Burt Ward would be jealous.
Oh, he'd be super jealous.
Yeah.
Sequest. It's nothing phallic about a giant submarine that looks like a squid. Don't know why I said that. Anyways, but I've been noticing a lot of Sequest activity on Twitter, which is really interesting, and I love it. Stuff's been showing up in my feed, and it's time. It's time to go beneath the surface, because Sequest I think the second season takes place in 2019. So it's like the past, but it's the future. So be looking for that. That's coming out next week. And from all of us here at the Geek State, stay excellent to each other, and we'll see you next time.
Mandalorian, whose name is Din Djarin, is your iconically cool, flawed, mysterious, loner, gunslinger that harkens to the best of the samurai movies and the westerns and
Dude, I mean, I knew we were going to hit it in the first try that time.
Yeah, we've had a lot of.
I had a feeling.
The practice, the tease, just made it work. Well, gotta go watch The Mandalorian again. See you later.
Bye. Bye.
Okay. Well, bye.
Bye, guys.